stay focused and present in the moment, chasing what ultimately was a national championship. And we respected that.
In the devastating silence of the Iowa locker room after their heartbreaking 102-85 loss to LSU in the 2023 NCAA championship game, the air felt heavy with grief. The kind of silence that presses down on every soul until breathing itself feels like a burden. And as tears streamed down the faces of players who had given everything for a dream that had slipped so cruelly through their fingers, Lisa Bluder found Caitlin Clark sitting alone in the corner, her head buried in her hands, shoulders, shaking with the kind of sobs that do not simply belong to the moment but emerge from the deepest chambers of disappointment, regret, and the awareness that everything you gave was somehow still not enough. And when the veteran coach approached her star player and knelt down beside her, the words she whispered were not about basketball strategy, not about future seasons, not even about the statistics or the acclaim that had brought them to that historic stage, but about a truth she had been carrying quietly for 3 years, a truth so profound and so personal that when Caitlin finally looked up, her tear-streaked face meeting the eyes of her mentor, both women realized that this very moment of defeat, this raw and unguarded fracture of a dream, would become the foundation for something far more meaningful than any championship trophy could ever represent. For how is it possible that our greatest failures so often become the birthplace of our most transformative victories? Not because of the titles we collect or the applause we earn, but because of what we discover about ourselves and about the people who love us unconditionally when we feel most broken. And what unfolded in that room was not just a coach comforting a heartbroken player, but the unveiling of a hidden truth, a secret that Lisa had kept since Caitlin's freshman year, one that would redefine how both of them understood success, failure, and the very essence of legacy. And though the cameras outside the locker room would never capture it, this moment belonged not to the world of sports, but to the world of the human heart, the private sacred space where true mentorship exists beyond the glare of headlines. And yet, to appreciate the depth of what was whispered that night, one must return to where their relationship began. When Caitlin first arrived on the Iowa campus in 2020, not only as a 5-star recruit carrying the weight of expectation, but as a young woman hungry for meaning, carrying within her the dual burden of extraordinary talent and an almost painful vulnerability. And Lisa, seasoned by years of both triumph and heartache, recognized immediately that her responsibility to this player was about far more than basketball. For in Caitlin, she saw a reflection of her own younger self, a woman trying to prove her worth in a world that had not always valued women's basketball. And so Lisa made a quiet decision, one she never announced to her staff or her players, that her primary job was not to win games, break records, or satisfy the demands of the media, but to protect Caitlin's love for the game, to guard it fiercely against the crushing weight of expectation, and to teach her that her identity was larger, richer, and infinitely more important than the numbers in a box score. And this conviction was tested early in Caitlin's freshman year, when the speed of the college game, the scrutiny of being Iowa's most heralded recruit in decades, and the cruel demands she placed upon herself began to take their toll, until one practice, frustrated and disoriented by missed shots and the overwhelming pace, Caitlin looked at her coach with eyes that revealed both fear and longing and asked, "Coach, what if I'm not good enough?" And Lisa, instead of offering technical corrections or tactical encouragement, simply placed a gentle hand on her shoulder and answered with a maternal calm, "Caitlin, you are already good enough. The question is not whether you can play at this level. The question is whether you can trust yourself enough to let your gifts shine." Words that sank deep into Caitlin even if she did not yet fully believe them. But what Caitlin never knew was that during those early months, Lisa often lay awake at night not worrying about her player's skill, because she knew that was beyond doubt, but about the fragility of her joy, fearing that the immense weight of expectation could suffocate the very spark that made Caitlin Clark unique. And so she promised herself quietly, night after night, that she would do everything in her power to preserve that spark, even if it meant making choices that others might not understand or even criticize. And as Caitlin's sophomore year unfolded, Iowa began its climb to national prominence, with Caitlin's statistics soaring and the media frenzy intensifying around her every performance. Yet Lisa saw something troubling beneath the glittering surface. Her star player was beginning to measure her worth solely by her on-court results, allowing missed shots or off nights to devastate her sense of self. and good games to trap her in the pressure of needing to perform even better next time. Until after one such night against a ranked opponent where the weight felt too much, Caitlin admitted to her coach, "I feel like I'm letting everyone down when I don't play perfectly." And Lisa, softening her tone to the maternal warmth that had become their language, replied, "Sweetheart, the people who truly matter don't love you because of your statistics. They love you because of who you are, your heart, your character, the way you make everyone around you better." Yet what Lisa withheld in that moment was the quiet project she had undertaken, carefully documenting not just Caitlin's points or assists, but every act of kindness, every moment of leadership, every sacrifice of glory for the sake of her teammates, building an unseen record of Caitlin's human greatness that one day, when the time was right, she intended to reveal. And as Caitlin's junior year carried Iowa to unprecedented heights and ultimately to the national championship game, Lisa's hidden case grew stronger. For while the world saw the brilliance of her game, Lisa was guarding the deeper truth of her spirit. And when that devastating defeat arrived, and Caitlin sat shattered in the locker room, Lisa finally knew the time had come to whisper what she had kept within her heart for 3 years, that her legacy would never be confined to trophies or scores, but to the depth of character she had shown in lifting others, in carrying joy through hardship, and in embodying the truth that victory, in its most enduring form, is found not in banners that fade or records that are broken, but in the love, resilience, and human connection that no loss can erase. And in that locker room on April 2nd, 2023, coach and player crossed the invisible line where mentorship becomes something eternal, where defeat transforms into the most unexpected triumph, and where the whispered truth of a woman who believed more in her players' humanity than her statistics became the foundation of a legacy greater than any championship could offer.
From the moment you guys got the #1 overall pick to finally ink to paper the other day?
The quick answer is no.
Right? She intended to reveal. And as Caitlin's junior year carried Iowa to unprecedented heights and ultimately to the national championship game, Lisa's hidden case grew stronger. For while the world saw the brilliance of her game, Lisa was guarding the deeper truth of her spirit. And when that devastating defeat arrived, and Caitlin sat shattered in the locker room, Lisa finally knew the time had come to whisper what she had kept within her heart for 3 years, that her legacy would never be confined to trophies or scores, but to the depth of character she had shown in lifting others, in carrying joy through hardship, and in embodying the truth that victory, in its most enduring form, is found not in banners that fade or records that are broken, but in the love, resilience, and human connection that no loss can erase. And in that locker room on April 2nd, 2023, coach and player crossed the invisible line where mentorship becomes something eternal, where defeat transforms into the most unexpected triumph, and where the whispered truth of a woman who believed more in her players' humanity than her statistics became the foundation of a legacy greater than any championship could offer. Throughout that magical tournament run, Lisa Bluder had marveled at how Caitlin Clark handled relentless pressure and nationwide scrutiny with a composure that seemed far older than her years. Yet even as she admired her star guard's poise, she also saw the toll it was taking on her emotional well-being, the weight of expectation gnawing at the edges of her joy. And after the devastating loss to LSU in the 2023 national championship, as the locker room sat frozen in stunned silence, Lisa addressed the group with words of pride, gratitude, and perspective, reminding them that their impact and the legacy they had created would endure beyond a single night's result. But what happened next slipped quietly beyond the